I want to welcome the GMs and the wives, the godly men and the warm, inviting, feminine, empathetic women out there. In today's video topic, I want to talk about how to take your power back from the Jezebel spirit. Because there's a lot of men out there and some women that have encountered the Jezebel spirit in men as well. Even though it's more rare in the men, women still encounter this Jezebel spirit. What the Jezebel spirit is, essentially, for those that are unfamiliar with it, and for those that are not familiar with me, my name is Thaddeus, and this is the Regal Change YouTube channel. The Jezebel spirit aims to take that which other people have built and destroy it for the sake of trying to bury her guilt, the spirit's guilt, with anger. And so there's a lot of guilt that goes into the Jezebel spirit, and essentially the Jezebel spirit is narcissistic. I mean, we have a lot of people nowadays living in this narcissistic spirit, unfortunately, in our society. And many people don't even understand that they're in a religious Jezebel spirit as well. They're not just the obvious promiscuous Jezebel spirit, but it's almost like an archetype, separate archetype that is, of the Jezebel spirit that is involved with religion. And so they come across as this, born again Christian, and they are very much not so that. But I've had a few encounters with women over the past few days that have been very enlightening to me, I would say would be the right word. And the first one is, I haven't seen this lady that I saw yesterday for 4 years, maybe 5 years. And she was one of the people that triggered my spiritual awakening process and also provided like some momentum behind it because of the pain that she caused. This was a total Jezebel spirit. This was the first entry point Jezebel spirit that I really had an entanglement with that really screwed with my life. And there was another one about a year or so later that was the Jezebel that did the trick. But this one was the first Jezebel that I encountered that I knew that there was something off, but yet I still felt drawn to her and I still felt really attracted to her for really no reason. And I knew about her past and I knew about how she operates, but with me it was different. Quote unquote, right? With me, it was different. With me, we could do something, and I was a total simp about it in the beginning of our relationship, 7 years ago. And we were off and on friends wise for 3 years, even though I was falling for her at a certain point down the line. This was the woman that ultimately helped me grow closer to God, which I actually am grateful for. But in hindsight, man, I can laugh about it now and I can look back and think, yeah, that was a pain in the ass. But man, in the moment, I was just very confused. My whole mind was befuddled. I don't even know I don't even know if that befuddled is a word. That could be a made up word, but that's what my mind felt like. And I was at the gym and I was just passing by her. I'm not going to say names or anything on this channel, but I kept walking. I didn't even notice her at first. I just kept walking. And, the last time she saw me, I was nearly 200 pounds. Okay. So, and I'm 5'6", and now I'm about 155 pounds. So I lost a little bit of weight since then. And she saw me and her jaw dropped and she just stopped and she said my name. And I turned around and at first I really did not recognize her, because she looked so different. Because, at the time when I last saw her, she was highly engaged in alcoholism. She was smoking a lot of nicotine. She was vaping a lot. She was smoking a lot of weed. She just had a lot of trouble with the guys and the girls that she was with. She was going through people like popcorn. And I just didn't want to be a part of it anymore. And I stopped being that white knight figure for her, right? And immediately in that moment after she said my name and I looked at her and I looked in her eyes and I was like, holy shit, this is this person. but she looked so much different, and she looked like she had aged 15 years in the last like 4. And I was like, holy crap. And she asked me how I was, and I just said, I'm well. How are you? Like because I really didn't. It wasn't clicking for me that this was this person. And she said, she was good, and I just was like, I kept walking, I kept it moving, because I did not want to talk to this woman. Did not want to talk to her. Are you kidding me? After everything that she's done, the best revenge that you're ever going to get from a Jezebel, and the way to take your power back from a Jezebel, is this. You just live your life. You just live your life. You live your life in a way that is satisfying and fulfilling to you. And that's exactly what I've been doing for the past 4 years. At least for the last 2 specifically that I've really been close to God and I've been following Jesus. But really for the last 4 years, 5 years, since my spiritual awakening, that's when things really started to change. And I started to really act as if my life was worth living. And I started to realize that I am worthy to be taken care of by myself. And I started to have to treat myself like someone to take really good care of financially, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. But I didn't know how to do that for so long. And it wasn't until I really started to follow Jesus was when I felt like I was totally complete. Because that was when everything started to just make sense. When I really started to just accept that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, that's when I was just, wow, it all really makes sense. It doesn't make sense that it makes sense. And that was my thought process, because I was thinking, wow, it shouldn't be logical to believe. And belief isn't even the right word, because this leads me to my topic for what I talked about with these other 2 girls today. I met these 2 girls at the coffee shop today. They were talking about Jesus, and they were both not wearing makeup. They were both dressed fairly modestly, and they were fairly young looking. And one of them was even wearing a dress of sorts, like a spring dress, not a summer dress, a spring dress. And I was like, holy cow, a woman, like an actual, it seems like there's an actual woman in front of me. This is nice. And so I decided to strike up a conversation with them, and I started asking them, oh, I heard I don't want to eavesdrop, but heard you're talking about Jesus. How long have you been following Jesus for? What's going on? And then we started a conversation, and we introduced each other, etc. And at one point I asked them why they go to church, because they were talking about church and they were talking about this stuff. And I was like, well, why do you go to church? Because I don't go to church, and I actually feel closer to God not going to church. So why do you go to church? And they were kind of appalled at me at first. They were like, wow, you don't, what? You don't go to church? It's like, no, I don't. And they said, well, it's about the community there, right? It's about the community. And I thought, well, yeah, but what else? So church today is just a place to commune, which is fine. That's fine. But what else? Because the false prophets are going to be revealed. Okay. And you'll see in the churches. I know I did. I saw the Jezebels in the churches, the ones that were leading the men, the ones that were very manipulative toward their husbands, making their husbands out to be this embarrassment in front of the whole freaking congregation. Hello, that's embarrassing. And then people would be like, oh, well, at least he's understanding. Man, Christians today are way too fucking understanding. We do not need to tolerate this kind of Jezebel effery, okay? We don't need to tolerate it. We don't need to tolerate this from anybody. So then they talked about, well, it's nice to be around believers. And I said, okay, well, what do you think is the difference between believing and having faith? And they were like, oh, never thought of it like that. And, one of them said, well, you can just believe in anything. And I want to be around people that, have a belief in something more. And I said, well, I don't want to be around believers. I don't want to be around people that believe the sky is purple. Because now, yeah, you can granted believe that the sky is purple. But I want to be around people that have faith, not just believe. Because this is where the Jezebel will test you the most. Whatever kind of narcissistic spirit that you're dealing with, specifically the Jezebel, whenever you try to call out the disrespect or you try to call out the behavior, what you're actually doing is you are, in some ways, it's actually good to call this out the first time, but if it turns into an argument, that's when disagreement is fine. But if you have an argument that it turns into, that's when things start to go awry. Okay? So anyway, I told them, yeah, I don't want to be around believers. I want to be around people that have faith. Because, yeah, it's like what they were talking about as well in this situation, that they were talking about how, you build faith by actually having the works and the fruits to show it. 100%. That's great. That's fantastic. And so it was a good conversation overall, but I got the sense that even just not going to church is going to be like a deterrent for some of these Christian women out here when they're the ones fucking sinning everywhere. And I'm not saying these women in particular that I discussed with in anything. I think they didn't have a lot of the knowledge, and granted they were a bit younger, but still, it's important for us to have the knowledge, because if you don't know how to take your power back, if you don't know how to take control of your life, people are going to just control you. Hello, that's what's going to happen. So you've got to be careful with who you're talking to, who you're associating with. And remember that, especially if you're a Christian, the church, because in the Corinthians it says that we are the body of Christ. What the hell does that mean? It means that the people are the church. The church is not somewhere you go to on Sundays. It's right here, right now, relationships. That's what we are as the body of Christ. So with that being said, I hope this video was informative and insightful and useful in some way. And peace be with you. Till next time.